I can't afford it. It's just easier if I do it myself. I don't trust anyone else to do it. Sound familiar? These are common responses to the question, have you thought about adding more staff? A recent jobarticle.com feature on hiring statistics indicates that there's a real shortage of skilled talent in the current market. Almost 3/4, 72.8% of employers are having a difficult time finding skilled candidates. Our guest today, staffing expert and founder of Star Staff Inc., Avery Plavin, joins us to discuss best practices and what to consider when recruiting to build a winning team. Also in today's trending tip, Jeff breaks down client conflict resolution. As the saying goes, you can't please everyone 100% of the time. What you can do, though, is have a clear and focused strategy for resolving customer issues while maintaining your professional integrity. Then, as usual, Jeff and I will dive into the fishbowl for another nutty interview question. We've got lots of good stuff ahead, so let's get started and fire it up.
If you're an entrepreneur who wants to learn how to manage time, achieve goals, and increase profits, Trending Now Talk podcast is for you. Weekly episodes include business leaders who reveal valuable insights and lessons learned. Also, your hosts Cynthia Cintron and Jeff Guadalupe share tips and trends focused on areas that will help feed your entrepreneurial spirit and fire up your success.
Avery, welcome to the show. We were super excited to find out that you were going to take some time out of your busy schedule to join us today. And gosh, you and I have known each other for a good long time. So when I heard that you were going to be able to do so, I was excited.
Well, thank you for having me, Jeff.
No, my pleasure, my pleasure. We want to open up by asking, with Star Staffing, why don't you go ahead and start us off? What started that journey?
I have been in the staffing business from the time I graduated from college. I was a human resources major. I came out into a first staffing agency in the late 80s, early 90s. I worked for 3 months for someone else in a fledgling economy. And my mother called me one day and said, hey, I've got a phone and an office. Why don't you start your own business? And that was all they wrote since 1992.
Since 1992.
Yep.
And was that in this area?
It was in the Washington, D.C. area, McLean, Virginia, Tyson's Corner, that whole tech corridor, as we call it.
Okay. Nice.
Yep.
So when did you start Star Staff?
So Star Staff was established in 2010. I had sold a very robust, large temporary healthcare staffing firm in the Washington, D.C. area. I had young kids, children, twins, and a singleton as well. And I decided it was time to take some time off and retire, so I sold the business, moved to Florida, decided to go scuba diving, enjoy my life, raise my kids, and by 2010, they were 10 years old, not needing me as much, and I started doing just independent consulting in 2010, and by 2014, the economy was in full swing, and I went forward and established an office like I had always done in the past with a full staff.
So talk to us about the difference between hiring an agency to help you staff and doing it yourself. Is it expensive? What should people know about making that choice?
So if you're an independent business, let's say under 50 employees, it would completely make sense to hire a staffing agency because traditionally the path is people run an ad, whether it be in the newspaper, which is old-fashioned, Indeed, LinkedIn, they run ads all the time. But what you typically get is 90% of candidates that aren't a fit. So all day long, a human resources manager who's really not equipped to do recruiting like a staffing firm does will sift through 1 million resumes, make calls, and never even get a call back because we're in the ghosting world right now. So here they are, time and energy. In the meantime, the position's going unfilled, so they're losing revenue in the position because it could be a revenue-producing one.
Right,
and then they hire Star Staff. We come in, we meet with them directly, we look at their job description, we fix it, we tweak it. Sometimes they're not getting what they want because it's incorrect or the salary's off. So we give them all those trends. They hire us, they pay us a percentage of the fee, they get a long-term guarantee the person will stay and not leave, and so they are protected, and so it's a real strategic partnership for both companies. There is a cost, of course it's fully deductible, but that's the cost of doing business.
So there's a lot of relationship building.
It's all relationship building. Really staffing, there's tons of recruiters out there, I would say, and tons of agencies, but you need to find one that really you can trust, because not everyone's created the same, as you know. And
Absolutely.
you need somebody that has integrity and they're not just trying to throw in numbers, because really it's my reputation. If a person leaves or they're a flake, it looks badly on me, and I want to be proud of the placements and the people I put in.
How does a business know that it's time to expand? Is there a formula? Where do they feel that growing pain?
Right. When they're working till 8, 9 o'clock at night on simple stuff, like whether it be...
Isn't that what all
whether
We all do
entrepreneurs-
that. We
I
all do
know.
that.
I know, but one lesson I learned a long time ago, I've 3 staffing firms. I had one, I was an independent, just sole proprietor type in the 90s. And then when I established MedForce, the staffing firm that got so large, we finally had to hire a bookkeeper. My regret in my first business was that I should have hired a bookkeeper, because the rigor of doing accounting and client management and staffing and the whole thing was just too much and overwhelming. In the end, that bookkeeper probably would have cost me $50,000 out of my revenue, but I would have slept better at night and had a better quality of life. So that was one shortfall that I learned.
And had more time to take care of your clients.
And in a company, exactly, that's what you should be doing best, is where you should be focusing your time. So an employer knows it's time, because suddenly they're wearing the hats of 5 people, they're neglecting their clients, and now it's costing them money.
Now, there's other individuals that could be neglected in
Like,
that situation. So now you don't have time and you're working till 10 o'clock at night.
right.
Now you have your family, you have your kids, you mentioned your kids.
Mm-hmm.
How did you keep that balance when it came down to you? It was great that you shared that you came down with your kids, you wanted some more quality
Right.
time. How did you do that now that you came back into the game?
If anyone has teenagers, they certainly understand that teenagers start to ignore you at a certain point in time. So with that comes, Mom, I'm not available, or you want to go to a movie or go to dinner and they're not even free. So
Right.
you might as well put your energy toward work and be able to reward them with good things later on, because you
Okay.
are busy working.
Okay.
When you're not going to work, they're saying, why aren't you going to work?
Because you
It's
need to
true.
you need to make that money so I can
Because
go
they
on
want an
my trip.
iPad.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. So no, we got to the point where they just weren't missing me, and I wasn't missing them in that sense, because they were gone for those core 8 hours a day too. So why couldn't I be gone?
Sometimes I forget that we were talking about the older kids. So yeah, it
Yes.
changes a little.
Yeah, well, I would say for new moms, all new moms should at least start out part-time. I think in the world that we live today, parents who have children definitely take advantage of FMLA, stay off for the first 6 months, but the child in the end is not going to miss you if you're gone for 3 hours a day. In the end, you're the mom who's going to miss the child.
Right.
But they're going to be fine. They're not even going to remember, and at least you will have worked and kept your skills up.
So actually, you bring up a really good point. In terms of your talent pool, do you have a variety of ages, or do you experience ageism in
Yes.
the business landscape?
Absolutely, right. We have some clients that will tell you and discriminate what they want, and I just say, hey, I'm bringing you the most qualified person. Then I have some clients that say, I want somebody over 55, and I'm in shock, and because I want them to be reliable and show up, but I'm like, I'm going to give you the best person. And even though you know these things, you can't discriminate against them. Yes, you want to make your fee, but I think it really comes down to an individual, like who can fill the job and who's the right cultural fit for that client.
And along that, I think talk to me about the employer's responsibility for knowing the job description and really setting up the talent for success.
So when you're given a job description, usually my first role is to reiterate it and make sure I understand it. If I don't understand it, how can I tell it to someone else? So if you're my hiring manager, my client, and you're trying to describe it and you're confused, then you don't know it either, and you're never going to hire somebody off of me, because you don't really know what you're looking for.
Right.
So the onus is on me to fully interpret it and make sure I know what you want, I know the hours you want, the salary you want, how far you're willing to stretch if you get the right person, and so on.
So before they come to you, they should actually have a really good understanding of the position they're filling, what they want to fill, how much they want to pay, and what they want to do, and then you help
Yes.
them. In
Yes,
that
it's
case.
just like shopping. You know what you want to spend, but you're always willing to be a little flexible.
But if
No
not,
different.
I mean, you're there when you have your meeting, you're able to
Yes.
educate them, and maybe they can't
Yes.
put it into words.
Right.
You have that experience because you probably worked with somebody in their genre of business.
We've had people we've had to write job descriptions from scratch. They just don't have one, and those are great because you feel like you're building a relationship and they're learning to trust you and they see a value added.
Okay. N2 Publishing is the leader in their industry, creating custom publications that connect neighbors to neighbors and business owners to hard-to-reach customers throughout the nation for nearly 15 years. And locally in Satellite Beach with Tortoise Island Living magazine for over 10 years. N2 Publishing is passionate about turning neighborhoods into communities, and through a hyper-targeted, multi-touch point approach, their business partners reach their ideal customers in a unique and powerful way. If you are ready for your business to make the right impression with the right customers, call today 321-604-0595. That's 321-604-0595. Also connect with Tortoise Island Living Magazine on Instagram and Facebook.
To us a little bit about what employers should know about boundaries with employees. Sometimes that line gets a little blurred.
It really just depends. As a staffing partner, when I put a person into a role, I have an expectation from my client that they're going to create a positive work environment and a safe work environment, and that they're going to practice good business ethics. So even though I have guarantees, I'm also expecting them to meet my expectation too. It goes both ways.
Sure.
But lots of employers, they have a lot of nepotism where they hire friends and family and things like that, and they do cross boundaries, but what they don't realize is that we're in a very litigious world, and they need to have professional liability insurance, umbrella insurance, everything else, because you could just have a simplest thing where somebody put a hand on someone, and that's sexual harassment. So they have to be protected, and they have to always, be careful of that. Other boundaries I always set is never enter a room where you're the only person in there, especially if the door closes. You open the door right away. Just like if you go for a doctor's office and it's a closed room and it's a minor and they're getting an eye exam, somebody else should be in the room, because he said, she said is so prevalent. But an employer is really the employer has a responsibility to that employee, because they're there those core 8 hours that they're supposed to protect them. So to me, it's all about ethics. Pretty much, that's the bottom line for me. It's about ethics and how they get treated.
And respecting that individual.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. We sort of, especially if we've been in business for a while, we sort of don't realize that. We see it on TV, but we don't really pay attention to it. It's a different landscape in business. We really do have to be clear on boundaries and make sure that we're protecting our business and our livelihood.
Yeah, especially today. I mean,
Yes.
there's been so many changes. Everybody talks about millennials and this and that, but the thing is that the landscape has changed just in what's acceptable.
Right. Me Too does
Acceptable.
not discriminate against any age group.
And see,
This is true.
that's a big difference. Especially now. I mean, we've seen a lot of different professionals that have gotten aged out. If you want to call it, I'm like, don't let me out.
Right. But statistically, they've just announced 25% of the aging workforce over 65 is going to be in the workforce in the next 10 years. That's a large number.
Yeah.
People are working into their 80s, some
Yes.
people, because they feel young,
Yeah.
and they also want the money.
And they have to. I mean, depending on what you read or what you believe or not, the reality is that, 40 is the new 30, and
Right.
people are working longer, and they just need to.
Actually, financially is not the only reason either. We find out they're just keeping your mind active. It
Makes them
does
feel
keep
good.
people young.
Yes.
Somebody came up with the idea that you have to retire at 65. That is not the case.
Oh, that doesn't happen.
I mean,
Unfortunately, it still is across corporate America. They
Yes.
still
Yeah.
want you to retire if you worked for a large company at 65.
again, it's always that financial, but
Right.
mentally and emotionally, a lot of people want to continue to work. They want that self-worth. That self-worth.
Agreed.
How do you decide what type of employers you want to work with? I mean, what's the advice that you would give to someone who was looking at engaging a staffing agency? There may be things that you may not want to engage.
For me, I'm representing an employer. So Star Staff looks for companies anywhere from $5 million to $50 million. That's usually my target audience, because there might only be 1 to 2 people in human resources, as opposed to a monster company where you just can't navigate. It's just too many people, too many chefs in the kitchen. If I'm representing a really good quality company, the candidate comes to me and they want to make sure that the company itself is of good legal standing, good financial standing, and is a reputable firm. So that's like the key when somebody comes to me. In the Melbourne area, we represent smaller firms because there's not a lot of huge employers here. I mean, you've got the Harrises and the Lockheeds and things like that. But then you have these small healthcare practices which have anywhere from 10 to 40 people.
Right.
They're really looking for an individual that's going to fit into their organization, and I'm looking for that individual that's going to stay the long run. What's the long run? To me, that's at least 2 years.
Yeah.
Because I've done my job. If somebody stayed 2 years and they decide to leave, that's not on me. That's on
correct.
the employer and the individual.
Right.
What piece of advice would you give to an employer? Because I hear this a lot. I'm the only one that knows how to do this. I don't trust someone else to do it. You know, what piece of advice would you give to that employer who really should be looking at expanding and could benefit
Right.
from your services, but is just holding on too tight?
I know. I have a client like that right now who wants a personal assistant, as they call it. They want to blur the lines. They want to be able to have somebody who goes through so much mail. They have several offices, go through all the mail, go pick up their dry cleaning, go pick up a kid. In the meantime, manage the phones, take customer service calls. That's, you know, we don't even call it Gal Friday anymore.
Wow.
It's just a person to be your person. So that's a personal
I need a
assistant.
person. You're just,
Yeah.
I need a
Yeah,
person.
that would be nice.
I call them wives.
Wives.
Yes,
like
I
that.
have two
Work wives.
wives. I have work wives.
I'm her
It's
work
true,
wife.
it takes a village. It does. When you have a busy professional life and you have somewhat success, you need people to help you.
How do you sort through and find talent for a job that's like, just do everything?
It's really networking events, word of mouth, reputation, social media. But the networking events for me usually is where I get my entire pond of candidates.
And that's the one of the
Really.
things I wanted to ask you, because that's where we
Met.
were introduced and
Right.
we met, and we've seen each other many different times.
Right.
How do you market your business and when it comes down
So
in
I am-
comparison to other companies?
Right. So Star Staff and Avery, me personally,
That's correct.
is really word of mouth and reputation. I am known as a no-nonsense, very candid, tell it like it is, no BS. I mean, if you want to hear the truth, you're going to come to me. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I just don't believe in it because all I'm doing is hurting everyone
Right.
in the process. So
Well,
you have
who
to
has
rip the
the time
Band-Aid
for
off.
nonsense?
Lots of people do.
Ah.
So if people come to me and they say, I need you to get this, I'm going to headhunt them. Most staffing firms are not headhunters. They don't go in, they won't cold call, they won't like make the story, they won't create a narrative to get information, to get names, to make that call. You are headhunting, literally by the word. Staffing firms, traditional staffing firms, they run the ad, they have all of these systems in place where resumes filter in and they're just keywords and then they're just calling right off a database.
Right.
So to me, that's not headhunting, that's just calling, and you'll eventually get someone. They're still successful, I can't knock it, but headhunting is like really the target. If you said to me, hey, I need somebody who can be another Jeff, you know, it's not going to be easy, but I will find that person.
So it's that building that relationship.
It is.
And I've seen you build wonderful relationships
Oh,
within
thank
those.
you.
No, you've done great, especially here in the community.
Oh, thank you.
When it comes down to that type of marketing, what's the difference between you and the other types of staffing agencies?
I think everyone tends to say the same thing, that we truly care and all of that, but I'm an on-site owner, president. I'm available 24/7. I'll meet with somebody on Saturday.
Okay.
An employee's not going to do that. They're not going to find that. It matters to me. When I place somebody in, if it's a great fit, I want to hear about it. I want to talk about it. I've got some really good LinkedIn accolades with some local employers. The other staffing firms around here are very large franchised firms, and they're part of that wheel. They do well. They make money. And some of the employers feel really comfortable with that protectionism.
Okay.
But when you work with somebody like me, the buck does start here. It starts and stops right with me. If my staff does something wrong, they can call me. So I'm always available because it matters.
Yeah, it sounds like it's more personal.
Oh,
It's much more
connected.
personal.
It isn't a cookie cutter
No,
experience.
no,
And I guess staffing for your office isn't a cookie cutter experience.
No.
We want to feel special with business owners.
People don't want to make a call, so I'm willing to make the call. I'm willing to sit with you if it's going to be right for both of us. One of our other services we do is all resume rewriting services. I can see clearly why people do not get a job. I mean, their resumes are either written backwards, or they just don't have the keywords, or it's
Or they're too long.
old-fashioned, or
Right.
they're in the wrong fonts, or
Yeah.
they're 7 pages long. There's
They're
so
not
many reasons.
educated in resume writing.
Yeah.
And I'm just shocked that people don't Google it and look it up
Yeah.
every time.
And again, I've noticed too, resumes can differ in what areas
Right.
that you are in. Now, one of the things, as an entrepreneur, I run a construction business. I would come to you and I'm looking for staffing. What type of business do you focus on?
So I focus primarily on financial, healthcare, IT, a little bit of manufacturing, contact centers. We have filled lots of contact center jobs, admins, nurse practitioners. I'm really more of a generalist. I started my career as all IT, then I moved to all healthcare, and now I rebranded where I do recruiting really differently than I used to. I now treat a company as almost like a human body. There's not one part of the company that I don't touch for staffing.
I like that.
So if it's a doctor's office and they say I need a front desk, and then they also see I need a nurse practitioner and I need somebody to just do insurance, I'm going to handle every opening. If it's a manufacturer and they say, hey, I need somebody to go out and be the salesperson, but I also need somebody to work in the factory, I'm going to do it. And the advantage is that I'm able to really learn what that company does so that I can upsell the company because I know the revenue, I know how many employees they are, I know how many offices they are, and I'm really involved in the company,
And you
as if
become
I'm
the
an
go-to
employee.
person.
It's like it's seamless. So they
Sure.
think I'm part of the company, even though I'm the staffing arm,
Exactly.
and it's a seamless thing. And they any questions they have, they can ask me, and I can get the answers.
You become the staffing department.
Exactly.
In a
whole.
way,
Yeah,
yes.
like their
in a
HR.
way.
In
I mean,
reality.
everybody has HR and they have recruiters,
Right.
but they're using us for a reason,
Exactly.
right?
Would you do that? Do you subcontract as an HR for a company, or do you strictly do staffing?
No, we strictly do the staffing. We are the strategic partner that they hire in, and usually if they hire me in another firm, they can see there's a difference. I mean, I'm bothering them. So
And you're good at
and
it.
I'm pushing them,
And I'm
right?
good at
Because
it.
sometimes they sit and wait. It's hurry up and wait, and you think they want it tomorrow, but then it's a month and a half later, and you're wondering why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much time does it take normally? What's your window from the time that a business calls you and says, say Jeff calls you and says, I need somebody to handle my bookkeeping and my front office. Do it. How long?
So-
What does that look
So
like?
I am not known as the fastest, and I don't want to be the fastest. I want to
Okay.
be the highest quality. I give 3 candidates, and somebody is usually always hiring one. You might give me a job order on Monday. I might not get a resume till Thursday or Friday, and you're like, what's going on? But if I'm calling you Wednesday saying, hey, I'm still working on it, I really am. I just haven't found the right one. I tend to screen out more than I screen in. I have a high expectation. I hire a certain person. If I don't like that person, you're not even going to get the resume. If they can't be kind to me, they're not going to be kind to you.
Right.
So I have my own level of expectation and influence that I want to be able to make sure I bring the right people every single time. But I don't do it like in record time. I don't want to be that firm that sends you 7 resumes and make a choice. That's wasteful as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But
You
lots
could
of
do that
firms are
yourself,
paper
yes.
pushers. Right, I won't do it.
Yeah, but
And if
3
it's not
days,
right,
you just
I want to
stated it.
know why it's not
You
right.
said Monday, and she's telling you possibly
Wednesday, Thursday,
Thursday.
yeah.
I mean, that's
Gosh,
the same
it
week.
takes weeks and weeks
yes.
to
It can,
Well,
fill.
it
and
could take
sometimes
and
it's a
lots of
really
people
hard
think
one, and sometimes maybe the fees aren't appropriate
Yeah.
for the job. So.
Well, it's important, I would imagine, also for employers to have to set proper expectations, to know what they want. So when it comes in the door, that they
Yeah.
are ready to take that employee. What advice would you give to employers to help set employees up for success when they come in?
Really having, it depends on how experienced or inexperienced they are, but shadowing is really the best way to success. Somebody who might be leaving and then they come in and they're able to shadow the person
Right.
if they're fortunate enough to come into that position. The other part is like meetings almost every other day in the first month to make sure expectations are set, the person's happy. Every boss or employer knows within 2 weeks if that person's going to work or not. You know it because you sense it. I mean, for me, it's innate. I
It's
can
the
feel
right
it.
feel.
It's
the
a
right feel.
feeling.
Yeah,
It's like,
absolutely.
are they staying like 5 minutes later? Are they staying an hour late? Are they out the door an hour every for lunch? See, there's the people that have a job or it's a career.
Yeah.
It's different.
And
okay?
communicating and how
Yeah,
to
it's
communicate with
communication.
everybody.
You can tell.
Do you help set employers up to understand that? Because I have colleagues that will hire, and it's like a revolving door. Do you work with?
Do they revolve for 90 days? They
It feels
that-
so. I don't know if it's the employees or the employer that's trying to get away from each other.
Well, there's certain
That
employers that do have revolving doors because they're call centers and it's drudgery. And there's some call centers here that advertise on the outside all over NASA Boulevard looking for people calling it 13, 15 an hour when they really pay 12. And the environment doesn't have any windows. I mean, who wants to work in that environment? It's tough.
It is tough. It
Yeah.
is tough.
So that is a revolving door.
It is. So I guess setting the right expectations.
And the
no,
environment
and the
matters.
environment.
There's a lot of IT govy firms here, and they have no windows. I mean, I understand why, sometimes from networking and things like that.
Do you have a to-do list that includes fixing things that are cracked, broken, old, or half done? Stop stressing. Call Diversified Contractor Services, the premier choice for those in need of the professional alternative to doing it yourself. Diversified Contractor Services specializes in helping seniors, small businesses, and busy professionals who don't have the time or ability for light construction, repairs, or maintenance services. Their trained, dependable, and licensed team are ready to help with tile repair, light fixtures, painting, pressure washing, landscape installation, small to mid-sized construction jobs, and more. Diversified Contractor Services offers high-quality workmanship that's honest, dependable, on time, and done right. Call today for a free estimate, 321-215-8208, 321-215-8208. Also, connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Just remember our name, Diversified Contractor Services. And now it's time for the fishbowl. Now, we gave Avery the out and said that she could leave, but Avery chose to stay. So, which is great because you know that for us, this is just the best part of the show.
Absolutely.
So,
Fishbowl,
so
fishbowl.
Avery, mix them up, do the honors, and select your question.
This is the good part.
This is the good part.
Okay.
I have
All
no
right.
idea
It was all
what's
good.
in there. I have no idea what's in there. Okay. This was asked at salesforce.com, sales representative candidate. If you could be anyone else, who would it be and why?
All right. That's a good one.
Yeah, see? Got you thinking now. Got you thinking.
I would be the guy in Back to the Future that has all of the baseball plays so that I could bet on everything and be a multimillionaire, billionaire.
Wow.
That's who I would be.
I love it.
that.
Okay.
What's his name?
Where did you come
What was
up
his
with
name?
that? I forgot what his
She
name
just
was.
reached deep
You went
into.
deep
Yeah,
into that one.
because I run a lottery club and you have to be in it to win it.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? If you have that, then we don't need any of this.
Wow.
Oh, but I like doing it.
I like
No, we would do
What's
this
his
for fun.
name? Buzz or the bad
Oh,
guy?
the back kid.
Yeah, the bad
Buzz.
guy.
Yes,
He's got the book with all of the game
I
stats.
forgot about that
Yeah.
one. Yes, and
Yeah, that
he
would be
got
somebody
rich
to be, right?
Shoot for the stars.
Yep.
Shoot for the stars.
Yep.
No, that was good.
That's
And
really
it's funny. It
Are we
would
gonna
you be,
do?
Jeff?
Are we gonna do another one?
We
we're
can.
gonna do another-
Oh, let's do
Oh,
one
okay.
more.
Oh,
Let's see.
Avery's going in. All right, let's
We got
see.
another minute. That's
Let's
good.
see. Oh my
That's
God! I hope this one has a penguin in it.
Okay.
Okay.
There is one that
want
another one that
sales.
has a penguin in it. I don't know. Oh my gosh, this is tailor made for you. Google asked this question. If you could only choose one song to play every time you walked into a room for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Easy. White Snake, Here I Go Again on my own. Going down the lonely road that I've ever known.
You know what? This is why she's the one who runs the staffing agency. Like she's
Because
like,
every time you
we
walk
do
in a
this all
room,
day.
you're on your own every single time, and it's just an amazing song.
I love
It's a great song.
You know,
Living the
most
vida
of our
loca.
islands.
That's not me. No.
That's me, living
yours,
the crazy
living la vida
life,
loca.
living the vida loca.
Oh my gosh. Avery, thank you very, very
welcome.
much for jumping into diving into
Sure.
the fish.
Twice.
bowl twice.
Yeah,
I could do this all day long.
That's an
you know
Avery.
that.
know.
That's an Avery.
Yes.
It was great having you. Dear.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Really enjoyed it.
Us too.
Star Staff President and headhunter Avery Plavin has been helping businesses expand their human capital for 20 years. She gathers insights into the organizations she serves and has partnered with Fortune 100 companies, private entities, and smaller businesses to grow their market share. Avery helps clients prosper by providing retained and contingency search, temporary services, competitive analysis, expert resume writing, and other resources to allow Star Staff's clients to remain competitive in an ever-changing market. To begin your search today, Call 321-802-6000. Connect with Star Staff on Facebook, LinkedIn, or visit starstaff.us.
So we've arrived to the tip of the day, and it was a question that was asked about handling conflict. Handling conflict is something that you're going to have to get used to if you're an entrepreneur. It doesn't really matter the type of business that you're in, whether it be legal, construction, healthcare. Clients and customers, their happiness and them being able to feel like that they received their services at a great price, and all those items that you go through each and every day, are something that you have to manage. And managing conflict is one of those things. Today I want to be able to share with you 6 points that are going to help you manage that conflict. One of them is that when you have a situation come up and you're speaking to the client, please listen. This is one of the hardest things that all of us have a problem doing. We all have busy schedules, and handling conflict, we want to be able to come to rectifying that problem and moving on. But you have to learn to listen. Take your time. Give them uninterrupted time to be able to share the issue that took place and why they feel unsatisfied. As you're listening, focus on them. Give good eye contact so they know that you're paying attention. And then this way they feel like you have an interest in their happiness. So that's number one. The second one is going to be acknowledgement. As you're listening, whether you have good memory or not, you might want to take notes. That in itself is body language showing them that you're paying attention to what their concerns are. Because afterwards, you're going to be able to go back and reiterate what those concerns are by repeating to them what they shared with you, what you have down on those notes, so that this way you have a clear understanding of why they're unhappy and why there's a conflict. If you don't have enough information on it, ask unjudgmental questions, things that have no emotion, not defensive questions, but questions just to get fact. So first listen, then you have acknowledgement, then you want to go into showing empathy. This can be difficult too, because sometimes we're paying attention and maybe you're like, okay, can we get, you don't want to do that. You want to show empathy. Let them know that you feel hurt, that they're not satisfied. This is your business. You want to be able to make these individuals happy. So show that empathy. That empathy is going to be in your posture. If you're, looking like you're ready to leave, they're not going to think that you're empathetic to the point. So you want to show that empathy and let them know, whether it be in words or in your emotions, that you want to come to a positive solution. So again, listen, acknowledgement, show empathy. Then you want to state the facts. Now you come down to the facts of the solution. Now that you're there, you want to go through all the points that led to the situation, and then state clearly what the solution is going to be. This is really important because of the fact that you're going to be able to tell them exactly how you want to arrive to the point of making them happy again. And in explaining that solution, make sure it's not only definitive, but you have time to explain that solution, whether it be right there or tell the individual. Tell that individual, hey, why don't we come back together at another meeting and we'll go over those options. So again, when it comes down to it, you want to state the fact, you want the objectives to be clearly stated, and then you want to explain the situation in detail. The last point I want to share with you, and this is a critical time, is remain firm. The reason I state this is because when you have a client that's been emotionally affected by not receiving their services, they want to make sure that they are satisfied. After you've stated the solution, you want to remain firm to that solution, because you are going to run into individuals that after you made all that effort, they're going to say they're still unhappy. And that's where you need to remain firm, because what you might find yourself doing is starting to waste time and trying to make an individual that's never going to actually be happy. And that is why remaining firm in that solution that was already clearly broken down is going to be so important. So again, just to go over some of these points again, listen, give them eye contact, do so in a clear way. Acknowledgement, write down those notes, whether it be using it for later on or also to reiterate what you heard. You want to show empathy is number 3. State the facts. Go over the facts, explain the solution, and then remain firm. So those are the 6 points I wanted to share. So now why don't we go ahead and see what kind of questions might come up. Cynthia, you got any questions for me?
Yeah, actually, well, in my business, I definitely have had issues come up where I have clients that have issues with my clients' clients. So what I tell the businesses that I work with is to use the opportunity, sort of shift the paradigm a little bit, because it's really simple to get defensive, isn't
Absolutely.
it? To say, you know, my work is great, you know, really to take it personally. I think that it helps to sort of have a paradigm shift there and take it as an opportunity to show your customer service, right?
Absolutely.
To reaffirm who you are, the services that you've provided, why they chose you, and how you want to be able to serve them. I've actually,
that point.
right? I've actually had situations where, as a result of the conflict, the customer was happier on the other side of it because they just felt great after, and it reaffirmed their decision to choose that client, that business.
Yeah, and that's part of management, because what happens is that you might think that this conflict is the only situation that's involved, but if they're not satisfied, we live in a world now with social media, blogging, referral bases being out there, you have to be careful. No, you don't want to spend crazy time trying to do that, but again, you want to be conscientious that if they're not satisfied, and if it was something that you could have took a little time to fix, you might want to consider doing so.
Yeah. It is really important for a business owner to put themselves in their client's shoes. I think it helps deflate. I mean, think about it. You're absolutely right. With social media, reviews are so important, and it is so easy to take your 5-star Google review average down to 2 or 1, and it matters. It really does.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
And it's a huge thing, because in managing conflict with the client or the customer, that's also going to transition on how you should manage conflict even within your doors. When you're in the office, it can transition to that. And if you have a game plan, like 6 points, just basic things to remember and key in on, it can make all the difference.
Yeah.
Really
I think the other thing also to keep in mind is don't take it personally.
Yes.
I think that happens a lot, and like you said, it filters into your personal life. But really understanding it's business. If someone says that they didn't like this particular job that you did, they're not saying that they don't like you.
Right.
They're saying that they're not satisfied with this, and you can't please everybody all the time. You know, and if you can take a step back and take a moment and really put it in perspective, that, you know, and be able to go through those steps, you know, it's a great resolute opportunity to resolve.
Yeah, and another thing is that not only stepping into the client's shoes, bring the clients and let them walk your shoes. Sometimes showing them the journey, what it took to accomplish that service.
Right.
They don't know what's happening behind the curtains.
Yeah.
So again, they think, well, how did this product get here?
Yeah.
They don't know the transportation costs. They didn't know the time that it took to get there, the warehouse. In construction, they don't know supply and demand can have an effect. They don't know scheduling, weather can have an effect. Suddenly they're upset because you told them that something was going to be taking place. And if you don't bring out that point and set it up for success, saying weather can have an effect, then we have a situation.
Isn't it great when you have a client who thinks that you've charged them X amount of dollars? Let's say that you had a job and it cost $5,000. And the client thinks that $5,000 walks into your pocket. and you go home and you get your sweetheart and you go shopping, you go to Vegas. you
Yes,
just-
yes,
the
yes,
best
yes.
That $5,000 is mine to spend. You know, so you make a really, really good point that it's important to sort of communicate. At the end of the day, a conflict just means that we're on opposite ends of the table. It doesn't mean that it's a personal situation. It doesn't mean that it has to end negatively. And if you can take the emotion out of it and put yourself in the client's shoes, put yourself in the, you know, in your shoes watching the client. The other thing that I was struck when I was going over and listening to your tips was timing. I have very few conflicts with my clients. They love me. But
Everybody loves you. Everybody loves you.
but in those moments that's happened in my long and illustrious career, I have found that if I headed something up quickly, and there was one time where I had an ad fell out of a publication that I'd produced, and I discovered it before the client discovered it. And after I had my mini heart attack, I picked up the phone and called the client and told them that I had done this and offered them a solution right away.
Absolutely.
And it actually was amazing. They were so gracious, so sweet. They were happy that I had a solution for them that I moved through. But timing is really important.
So you got ahead of the conflict. You already had a solution. So it made them at ease, letting them know that you are professional and you're trying to get ahead of an obstacle that took place. Oh, absolutely. I mean, you could put that number one ahead of all these points when it comes down to managing conflict.
Do it quick. Don't let it fester. Don't let it sit.
Don't try to cover it over.
Yeah.
You know, don't make a conflict. I mean,
What? Who?
yeah,
That wasn't,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
no, that was the other guy.
One of the things that I found difficult that I had to learn is listening. Listening was tough because I'm like, okay, there's a situation, let's get it fixed, let's get it rectified. Sometimes a person needs to emotionally let it out before you come with solutions.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes people, husbands, wives, kids, everybody, we all learn from that real quick. Can we just get it fixed so I can get back to the ball? No, that's not how it's going to go. So again, when it comes down to managing this conflict, I always tell people, number one is listen.
Yeah.
Listen, allow them to share, and be emotionally connected to them rather than to yourself
and to
your business.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's part of taking responsibility. It doesn't say that you're a bad business owner. It doesn't say that you're weak. It doesn't say that you're inadequate. If you take responsibility, it actually shows a certain level of maturity.
Absolutely.
To be able to say, you know what, you're absolutely right. Let's sort this out, you know?
Well, thank you. I appreciate your input on that because, again, doing these points, and when I was asked about managing client conflict, I was like, oh, okay.
I know, I called you. I said, Jeff, this is a really good topic.
This
What
is
do
a
you
good
think?
topic. What do you think? Yeah, okay, really?
Well, you know, nobody likes conflict. Yeah. Well, actually, no, that's not true. I think my brother really loves conflict because we used to do it a lot when we were kids.
Your brother's listening.
But realistically, it's uncomfortable. It makes you sweat. You don't want to do it. It could expose weaknesses. I think it's really important as a business owner to sort of know, that's part of getting to know yourself and your identity as a business owner. If you're super uncomfortable about it, then, you know, really get right with it. What's the worst thing that can happen? You lost a client, you lost a couple $1,000s, you'll make that up, you'll move on. If you can diminish that monster, right? It makes us stronger, I think.
No, it does. And here's the thing, for all the entrepreneurs, you're going to have conflict. Absolutely, you're going to have conflict. So if everyone can remember those 6 points, it'll be phenomenal. Thank you again for your input.
Jeff, that was amazing. Thank you. I actually learned a lot as well. I appreciate it. And that does it for our episode today. We'd like to thank the digital media and television production team here at Eastern Florida State College for doing an amazing job and supporting us. Thanks to Avery Plavin for joining us. And we'll see you next time on Trending Now Talk.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening to Trending Now Talk. Join the conversation today. Download and subscribe for free on iTunes, Buzzsprout, and Spotify. Trending Now Talk is recorded at the Eastern Florida State College Studios in Cocoa, Florida.